afternoon, and welcome to IT and Veeam's webinar with regards to Veeam Backup and Replication version 11. I'm joined today by Andre, who's the Inside Systems Engineer at Veeam. And on behalf of Complete IT and Veeam, I'd like to welcome you all to our webinar. I'd like to thank you for your time, because as we all know at this particular moment in time, with the pandemic going on, time is of an essence. Complete IT Systems have been working with Veeam now for over 10 years. It's been our go-to product for virtualization built from the start, but now this has expanded to physical and cloud as well. This release for Veeam is a massive upgrade and has been in the pipeline for a great deal of time. Veeam have created a single platform for cloud, virtual and physical backups. I will warn you, some may get slightly technical today as we go through it, but please bear with us. And if you have any questions at all, if you could wait till the end of the session, and we'll try and answer those for you. So what are the key new features? We have CDP, Continuous Data Protection. CDP was originally slated in for version 10 of Veeam, but the technology has matured a little bit now through testing. And this allows you to configure the recovery point objective on what you would class as mission critical VM to seconds rather than minutes. The RPO defines the maximum allowable amount of lost data measured in a time from failure occurrence to the last valid backup. So basically cutting back on how much data we lose if you're having to flip to that backup. Ransomware protection, kind of a common one, this one now. Every backup checked for all the lurking nasties. Keep your data safe with native, immutable, malware-safe storage repositories for your backups. This prevents malicious encryption and deletion. Archive to cloud. Reduce the cost of long-term data archival and retention by up to 20 times. Replace manual tape management and achieve end-to-end backup lifecycle management with an active tier. Another one which has been added in here is the expanded instant recovery. Instantly recover even more of the data center workloads that you utilize with seamless recovery for SQL, Oracle, and NAS backups. And probably the final one, but probably a larger one here, and it's something from a backup perspective that's being asked for more and more, which is backup as a service and DR as a service. I'll try not to take up too much of your valuable time, and I hope you enjoy the webinar and enjoy the demos. There will be some time at the end for the questions, as mentioned before, and if you could keep those till then, we would be appreciative. I'll now hand over to Andre to give a much more in-depth look at the new software.
Cool. Thank you very much for the introduction. So once again, my name is Andrei Stoica. I am an Inside Systems Engineer here at Veeam Software. Today, for the next approximately 40 to 45 minutes, I will walk you through some of the latest and coolest features Veeam released in Veeam Backup and Replication version 11. As Kevin said, Veeam and Complete IT have a long-time partnership already, and we constantly work together to deliver best quality products and be up to date with our latest technology. Before joining, I also checked the audience list, and yeah, most, if not all of you have a technical background, which is great because as Kevin said, this would be a technical focus session. It won't be very technical. It would be something in between sales pitch, let's say, and the technical session. We've also reserved, as once again Kevin mentioned, 10-15 minutes at the end of the session for Q&As. So please ask all the questions at the end of the session. Before we start discussing about V11 and the features that Kevin briefly mentioned at the beginning, I want to tell you few details about Veeam, about who we are as a company, for those of you who don't know. We are based in the States. We used to be based in Europe, in Sweden. Now we're based in the States, and we have 80% of Global 2000 and Fortune 500 companies being Veeam customers. And we're the market leader in data protection, right? We became a market leader like two years ago. We are in approximately 160 countries around the world. We have more now in 2021, more than 400,000 customers. And we achieved $1 billion in bookings in the second quarter of 2019. But what we are really proud of is that NPS index score, which you can see on the bottom right corner of the screen. We have an NPS index score of 75, which is way above the industry average, and also we do better than Amazon and Netflix, which you all know are really, really big corporations. What this NPS index score represents? Well, it basically represents how satisfied the customers and the prospects are with the services that we provide. Support team, the product, sales teams, and basically everything that's that relates to Veeam is reflected in this NPS index score. We started more than or roughly 15 years ago with a backup solution for VMware, right? An agentless backup solution for VMware platforms. We were like, it was a revolutionary product back then, but of course the entire environment has drastically changed since then. Now it's not only about VMware or Hyper-V or virtualization platforms. We have to keep up to date with the cloud technologies. We have to keep up to date. We also have to include legacy systems like physical servers, tapes, and so on and so forth. So these days, Veeam offers one single platform for cloud, virtual, and physical worlds. We have dedicated products for cloud workloads for AWS, Azure, Google Cloud. We can protect Office 365 services, including Microsoft Teams data with Veeam Backup for Office 365. Applications that you run in cloud, like databases running in AWS or Kubernetes environments running in any cloud and even on-prem, can be protected in 2021 with Veeam. And of course, we do a really, really good job with virtual platforms, more Hyper-V and Nutanix. For these three virtualization platforms, you do not need any agents. We run agentless. We communicate directly with the host to back up your systems. Physical workloads, we can protect those Windows, Linux, Oracle, Solaris, and NAS shares as well. So as you can see, we have a really broad portfolio that can help you protect pretty much any type of workload that you might have in your environment and also in the cloud. Of course, our flagship product is Veeam Backup and Replication. Right, this is the main product that we sell, and we're just working on including all these technologies and all these auxiliary products like Veeam Backup for AWS, Veeam Backup for Azure, Veeam agents in one single platform, which is Veeam Backup and Replication. But on top of the Veeam Backup and Replication, which is going to be the main product we're going to also cover in today's session, we'll provide a monitoring and analytics solution called Veeam One, so you can monitor not only your backup infrastructure, your Veeam backup infrastructure, but also your virtual infrastructure, your VMware Hyper-V platforms, your physical servers as well. And of course, why not to do a replication with Veeam, and why not having a disaster recovery orchestration product that can help you to easily fail over from your production side to the DR side. And we have such product, we call it Veeam Disaster Recovery Orchestrator, which can help you to fully automate this DR process, and it also does automatic reporting and much more than this. Of course, you can reuse the data. All the backups that you take with Veeam Backup Replication, you can restore that data to different locations. You can use Veeam as a data mover and not only, so you can convert physical to virtual to cloud, and so on and so forth. We have integration with some storage vendors to do some more advanced backups, like backup from storage snapshot orchestration, and so on and so forth. But we also do have integration with service providers and with public cloud, AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, IBM Cloud, and many, many others. So this is who we are. And as you can see, it's not just about backups anymore, and it's not just about virtual platforms anymore. You can just have one single product that can protect all your workloads, no matter if those are on-prem or in the cloud. And you can also use Veeam to move your data from one place to another. Now, moving on to Veeam Backup and Replication V11. Right, it used to be a 3-in-1 solution. Now it's a 4-in-1 solution because what we added to Veeam Backup and Replication version 11 is continuous data protection. So we already had in V10 and V9.5 storage snapshots, backups, and standard replication jobs, but we added this continuous data protection, which gives Veeam the title of being a 4-in-1 backup solution. And in V11 only, we added more than 150 enhancements, right? New features and also improvements for the existing features and the existing technology that we have available in Veeam Backup and Replication. Now, as Kevin said, there are some key capabilities, there are some key features that were released in Veeam Backup and Replication version 11, and those would be around those will be the conversation in today's webinar, right? So the 4 main ones are continuous data protection, so the CDP policies that you can create with Veeam, the Hardened Linux repository, an immutable on-prem repository that you can set very, very easy. Integration with AWS Glacier and Azure Archive tier, so you can store backups on really cheap storage into the cloud, and expanded instant recovery. What expanded means, you're going to see a bit during the presentation. Backup as a service and the other as a server is something else that we already had in Veeam Backup and Replication for quite a few years now, but there are some improvements there which I will emphasize a bit later in the session. So we'll take this one at a time. We'll just tell you how they work, what's the technology behind these features, and we'll also do a live demo for each and every one of them. Doing a CDP, so failing over to the replica VM, showing you how you can set a hardened repository, showing you how you can integrate with AWS or Azure Archive tiers, and how you can initiate an instant data recovery. Great. So the first one on the list is continuous data protection, and this is massive, right? So you can achieve near 0 RPOs for your tier 1 mission critical workloads. I want to emphasize once again, for your tier 1 mission critical workloads. So this is not designed to work as a standard replication that you can set for all your virtual machines, right? Only those tier 1 VMs should be part of a CDP policy. So you can achieve almost no data loss and fast recovery from replicas with the help of our CDP policies. And this is the technology behind it. We use VMware's VAIO or vSphere filtering to capture all those changes. So basically, we're capturing those changes before they are actually written on the disk, on the actual disk of the virtual machine, which makes this technology very efficient, right? There's no overload on your production storage because all the changes are captured before they arrive on the production storage. So, by the way, there is a limitation. This one in V11 is only available for VMware, so there is no CDP for Hyper-V. It only works with VMware. Now, there are a few components that you can see on the slide. The first one is the coordinator, which is the manager of all these CDP operations. So it makes sure that all the components are in place, the synchronization is happening the way it should, and also the failover process is happening the way it should. Then we have the filter, so that's the value filter that filters all the operations, and of course there is one proxy server in the source and one proxy server in the destination. The proxy servers are used to handle data transfer from your source data center to your target data center to your DR site. The sync time, so the sync time between source and target can be as low as 2 seconds. But we recommend at least 15 and 20 seconds for the best performance possible. But you can set your RPOs as low as every 2 seconds, and that's impressive, right? Now, there are still some differences between a CDP policy and some replicas. Basically, CDPs a replication job on steroids, right? But it comes with some limitations. For example, you cannot have planned failover. Sure replica and file level recovery are not yet available, but the plan is to include them in one of our next releases. So you cannot test the replicas that you take with the CDP policy, and you cannot perform a file level recovery from a CDP policy. Those are only available with standard replication jobs. But even though there are some features missing from the CDP policy, I would say that it shouldn't be a roadblocker for your tier 1 applications that requires that level of protection. So to sync all the changes every 10 seconds, every 50 seconds. Okay, now let me switch to the demo lab, and let's run a simulation of failure, and then let's just try to fail over to its replica. So we're here in on our Veeam Backup Replication console. You see that there are quite a few jobs here. We have one CDP policy that's constantly syncing the data between source and destination, and we have an RPO for this particular job for of 15 seconds. Let me first of all walk you through the configuration wizard for a CDP policy. Once again, there is basically no difference between a standard application job and the CDP policy. The only difference is the RPOs that you can have with the CDP policy. So you can still remap the network, you can still re-IP the virtual machine, all those features that are already available with some application jobs. You select the virtual machines that you want to replicate, select the destination host, the destination data store, and basically where that virtual machine will run in the DR site. You can remap the network, you can re-IP the virtual machine if you'd like to. And yeah, this is where you set those source and target proxy servers that will handle the data transfer between source and destination. So you're going to need at least one virtual machine or physical server on the source side and one on the target side that will make sure that this transfer happens. Then, of course, you can add a suffix to that virtual machine, so to know that that's a replica, you can also change it. Okay, now scheduling. This is the most important part, right? So you can there are two different retention policies here. There's a short-term retention for the CDP policy, and then there is a long-term retention that you can basically use it as a replica, as a restore point for replication, so you can revert fail over the virtual machine to one of these states. Short-term retention. This is how often the virtual machine the source virtual machine will sync with the target one. So it can be as low as seconds. Once again, the minimum here is 2 seconds. You cannot go to 1 second. It doesn't allow me to just set 1 second here. But best practice is 15-20 seconds, right? Then for how many hours or minutes you want to keep these changes, you want to keep all this buffer with all these changes. You can set just a few minutes. You can set several hours. It depends on your needs here. And then you have the long-term retention, which creates additional restore points based on snapshots. So it's a standard way of setting a replication job, and you can run it once a day, and you can keep those long-term retention restore points for as long as you need. And those would be basically snapshots of those virtual machines that we keep in the target, and you can select any of those to fail over to the virtual machine. Next one here is the guest processing. We also have this option available for CDP policy, so you can have application level processing, and if application level processing is not available because it's not supported for that application, we also get a crash consistent virtual machine in the target. So it's still not just taking the information and sending it there; it's still a crash consistent copy of that virtual machine. And this is how you create a CDP policy. Then you have a summary, and that would be it. As you can see, we meet all our SLAs with the CDP policy that we're running in here. Now, if we go to replicas and click on it, you see that we have these two virtual machines that we're protecting with the CDP policy. I should still be connected to our vSphere client. So let's simulate an error on one of our virtual machines that we're replicating with the CDP policy. I think this is one of them. Let me just go back here. SPS1. Okay, that should be good. So we'll just power it off. No shutdown gets to S, power off, which will simulate a power outage or something like this. And now this should stop pretty quick, so we can initiate a failover from a CDP policy. This will just spin up the virtual machine that we have in our DR side. Now, what I want to show you here is the granularity that you can have. So remember that we're syncing the disk every 15 seconds, right? So if I go to restore to a point in time and use this crash consistent and application aware consistent, if you want to restore it to a crash consistent state, check this box. If you want to restore it to application consistent state, check this box. If you want to granularly specify that restore point, you can use your arrows to revert that virtual machine to a point in time state. So let's say we want to revert to state that was like approximately 1 minute ago. Okay, we can just click OK here. Next, and we just call it test. And that would be it. Now we're just initiating the failover process to the DR side. This might take a while. Okay, we'll just leave it run here. We should also be able to capture all this operation happening on the vSphere client console. So reconfiguring the virtual machine, powering it on in the DR cluster. You see that we already have it replicated here, and it should be fairly quickly failing over to it and powering it on in here in our DR side, right? So it has already started to fail over to SPS1 replica. We'll just leave it here. We'll just come back to it in a few minutes so we can connect to it and yeah, see if it's working fine. So there are changes that are happening here. You see that VMware is it's already powered on. So right now it happened really, really quick. Failover completed successfully. So we're already launching the virtual machine and we can connect to it, right? So I can launch web console here. And okay, the virtual machine is running from its replica in the DR side and is running from a CDP policy, and we reverted to, I think, a state that from 1 minute ago or 2 minutes ago, and we can already connect to it. So it happened really fast, and you have this granularity to select exactly the restore point that you want at the 15 seconds interval, because this is the interval that we set for our particular CDP policy. Great. Now let's go to the presentation. The next one on the list is Hardened Linux repository. I won't lie you, this is the feature that I like the most because, yeah, we all know how many ransomware attacks happen in the past years, and especially now with this this coronavirus situation, right? Basically, what you can have is a malware-safe repository for all your backups on your own storage in your own data center, and it requires little to no effort to design and implement it. All you need is a Linux server and, of course, some storage attached to it. I'm saying some storage because you can use any type of storage. You know already that Veeam is storage agnostic. You can use any type of storage for your backups. You can use a NAS share, you can use a DAS storage, you can use a SAN storage. And of course, we have integration with object storage and yeah, which you're gonna see a bit later. But you can use any type of storage as long as you attach it through iSCSI or even through fiber channel if you use a physical Linux machine. As long as you attach it to a Linux machine, it's gonna work. And these hardened repositories prevent data deletion, so an attacker will not have access to remove the backups from the repository. Yeah, how we do that? With the help of the iflag available with some of the latest Linux distributions like I don't know, Ubuntu, CentOS, Debian, and yeah, some other distributions as well. This I flag can be set by a standard user. So this is a drastic change that we have in Veeam Backup Replication version 11. You do not need the root account. You do not need the root user to add a Linux repository. You can use a standard user with single-use credentials to add a Linux repository in Veeam Backup Replication. And this flag can be set by any user, but it can only be removed by the root account, by the root user. So since we're not using that root account to connect to the repository, to write the data there, to restore data, and to do any operation with that data, it means that that standard user will not have the right type of access to connect to your repository and remove the backups. Not even if you are connected as an administrator to the Veeam Backup and Replication console and you try to manually delete some backups from there, because we use single-use credentials that are not elevated to root roles, so that user cannot remove the backups and cannot remove, first of all, this I flag from the repository. Not talking about removing the backups. So all you need is a Linux machine, set that user, create that user on the Linux machine, attach it to a storage, attach it to Veeam Backup Replication, and you just use it as a standard Veeam repository, which is immutable. And yeah, as a best practice tip, we also recommend disabling SSH for that for the root account. So it just makes it even better. So now we can have immutability with Veeam at every level with our scale-out repositories and hardened Linux repositories. So you can have an on-prem hardened Linux repository. Then you can copy all the backups to a capacity tier using the scale-out repositories that you can set in Veeam Backup and Replication. So to have an extra copy of those backups in the cloud on Amazon S3, ST-compatible Azure Blob, IBM Object Storage, and Google Cloud Platform, so you can copy all your backups there on offsite location. And also, of course, the Hive tier is also immutable, so you can have the Linux repository, Amazon S3 or S3 compatible. Both of them are offering object log feature, so for immutability, and also the Hive tier, Amazon S3 Glacier, and Microsoft Azure Blob Storage. So yeah, immutability all around, from performance tier to archive tier. I'll just jump back in the demo lab, and yeah, let's see the Hardened Linux repository in action. Okay, so this one worked right now. The virtual machine is running from the failover from its replica in the DR side. I'll just want to cancel this one. We have undo failover, permanent failover, and fail back to production. Fail back to production will commit the changes from the DR back to the production replica. Undo failover will just switch back to the original VM without saving the changes. Okay, we just undo this failover, and let's just wait for this to happen. We'll just leave it running here in the background. Now, let's move on to the Hardened Linux repository. So as I said, the first thing that we have to do is to add that Linux, to add the Linux server to the Veeam Backup and Replication console. Manage servers, add server, and let me just search for our Linux repository. This is it. I won't add a new one. We'll just edit the one that we already have here. So we'll just go to properties. I want to show you that right now, you don't have to use this root account anymore. You can create a Linux account without using the root account. And if it's not, if it's a non-root account, you can elevate the account privileges to have sudo access to it if you want to, but of course that's not mandatory. So you can use this. For example, this user, SVC VBR user, to add the Linux repository. You don't have to always provide the root account. We still have the root account here because this is where we keep all our credentials for Linux, and we still need root account to add, for example, a Linux repository. For Linux, a Linux proxy server. For proxy servers, you're still gonna need the Linux, the root account. Okay, once you have your Linux virtual machine or physical server added here to manage servers, you'll have to go to backup repositories and create a Linux repository. So yeah, click on add repository, directly attach storage, Linux repository, then provide all these details here. Once again, I'll edit the one that we already have here because I want to show you that checkbox for making the backups immutable. So there's a checkbox here when you add the repository that's only available in V11 to make recent backups immutable for, and you can set the number of days, right? So you can go as high as something like with a lot of nines here, so 999, something like this. Okay, 4 nines, not that many, but you can make backups immutable for 9,999 days. The policy, the retention that you set here with the immutable flag has priority over the standard retention policy. So if you set here 99999 days, for example, but you want in your backup job to have a retention policy of 9 days, this one has priority, so backups will stay here for 99999 days. Okay, you get the point. Now we have the repository here. Yeah, we have backups that backup jobs that are writing data on this repository. Now, what happens if someone tries to delete some backups from that repository? So let's say that an attacker manages to get access to the Veeam Backup Replication console, and it just tries to remove the backups from all your repositories, right? So if we go here to disk, and remember that in order to connect to the Veeam Backup and Replication console, you have to be an administrator. You have to be you need to have administrator roles on the Windows machine runs Veeam Backup and Replication, as well as on the Veeam Backup and Replication console itself. So we have full privileges here. We can do whatever we want. Okay, we have here a backup job that's writing data on an XFS repository. We have more than 7 restore points. We have 12 restore points, 19 restore points for this virtual machine. So still, we might be able to delete some of the restore points, but those from the past 7 days that are having that immutable flag, we cannot remove those for sure. So let me just try to delete this from the disk, click OK. Now, yeah, Veeam is just trying to do its job and remove those backup files from the repository. We should get a warning saying that those backup files are protected with the immutable flag, and we cannot remove it from the repository. Not even me as an administrator here, right? So since there's no way for that attacker to connect to that Linux repository with the root account, there's no way for that attacker to remove the I flag and to delete the backups. We have kind of the same level of I think we have the same level of certification for our Hardened Linux repository as AWS for their object log feature for object storage repository. So yeah, this is all you have to do to set it up, and this is how it works. As you can see, we cannot delete the backups, and the backups are still here. We just got a warning, and the delete process finished. Okay, going back to my presentation. Next one on the list is AWS Glacier and Azure Archive tier support. And we're getting this question very often here at Veeam. I want to get rid of those legacy tape drives that we still have or we still use. What options do we have with Veeam? Before V11, the only option was to use object storage. Starting with V11, you can store your archive backups on the cheapest option available in the cloud, which is AWS Glacier and Azure Archive tier. There is a significant cost difference between standard object storage and these archive tiers. So if you have really long-term retentions or regulations that force you to keep backups for at least a year, I would say, our scale-out backup repositories with archive tier would be a very cost-effective and easy to implement solution. How it works? So all you need is a cloud subscription and a Veeam license that supports scale-out backup repositories. And backups cannot go directly to the archive tier. You have to use the scale-out backup repository, have them on the performance tier, then either copy or move them to the capacity tier, so to a standard object storage repository, and only afterwards move the backups protected with a GFS flag from the capacity tier to the archive tier. So it's a three-stage process, from performance to capacity, and then from capacity to archive tier. So send the backups that you think you might not need again, and even if you need them, at least you won't need them in the first 90 to 180 days, because it's very cheap to keep backups there, but it can be very expensive to restore the data from Glacier, like Deep Archive or Standard Glacier, or Blob storage archive tiers. So this is where you send backups that you think you might never need again, but you also have to keep them somewhere. Well, not so much to show in the demo lab, but let me just walk you through the configuration steps and what you need to do in order to have this archive tier support in Veeam Backup Replication. So once again, we'll have to go to backup infrastructure and go to scale out repositories. You see that we already have 3 scale out repositories here. For those of you who don't know, a scale out backup repository is an extension of your on-prem repository with a cloud storage to allow you and to allow Veeam to copy the backups that you store on your local storage on-prem to an offsite location, which would be a cloud provider, AWS, Azure, IBM Cloud, Google Cloud, and any other S3 compatible solution. So this is an AWS, well, this is a scale-out backup repository, AWS object storage. You see that we have the performance tier, which is a standard Windows repository that we have in our Veeam Backup and Replication environment, and we extended that with an AWS S3 capacity tier. How that one is done, I'm just going to properties of this scale-out backup repository. So the performance tier would be the first, well, the landing zone for all your backups. This is where you write the backups first, and then you have 2 options: copy backups to the capacity tier as soon as they are created. So 3 to 1 will have 3 copies to different places, one of them being offsite. Or move the backups there, so you keep them on-prem, and after a while, and you can set the number of days here, you just move these backups to object storage repository. And you can also combine these two, have for a short period of time backups in both places, and then after a while just remove them from on-prem and only keep them in the cloud. And this is the second stand, I would say. This is the standard object storage. And then you have the archive tier. If you want to send those GFS full backups to really cheap storage, check this box, and then you can add your cloud buckets, your Glacier and the AWS archive tier buckets here. And then Veeam will handle the transfer. So you can set after how many days you want to evacuate the backups from the capacity tier and move them and only store them on these archive tiers. And that's all you have to do. All the data transfer is handled by Veeam. You just point the backups to this repository, to the scale-out backup repository, and then Veeam handles the data transfer from the performance tier to the capacity tier, and then from the capacity tier to the archive tier. So it's a 3-stage process. Okay, that's pretty much it. We do not have any archive tier storage added here, but that's all you have to do to add it, right? So first of all, purchase service from the cloud provider, and then just come and add it here. Cool. Last but not least, we have expanded instant recovery. I want to talk about some nice improvements around instant recovery, because this is not a new technology. This is something that Veeam patented more than 10 years ago. And we are the first ones that figure out a way to achieve really fast restore, and you can have that in no more than 2 minutes for VMware workloads by powering on the virtual machines directly from the backup file back to your production storage. Now, it's not only about VMware anymore. So starting with V10, we included support for instant recovery of Hyper-V workloads, and in V11, we added instant VM recovery for SQL databases, Oracle databases, and NAS shares running on the SMB protocol. So you can instantly recover a database from one of these two databases, and you can instantly recover a NAS share back to production in, once again, no more than 2 minutes. So this is the highest it can go, because it runs the database or the NAS share directly from the backup files that have stored on your repository. Okay, let's start with SQL and Oracle first. So you can get your databases running back in seconds on your production database, or even on a different server. It doesn't matter if it runs on a physical or virtual machine. That's very important. You might have a dedicated physical box for your databases. You'll need to have a backup taken with a Veeam agent of that database, and you can still instant recover it from the repository back to production. So as long as you have a backup for it, you can do an instant database recovery. Yes, there will be a small downtime on switchover. So after all the changes are synchronized and after the database is fully restored from on the production storage, you'll need to initiate the switchover process, and that involves a bit of a downtime for the database to be switched from the repository to the actual production storage. Now, this is a 3-stage process for the instant database recovery feature. So first of all, Veeam initiates 2 iSCSI connections. The first one is to mount and run the database directly from the repository on the database server. And the second one is to restore the database to the primary storage. Also, there is a sync that's happening while you run the database, and Veeam sync mode will synchronize all the changes between the production database, so all the operations during the restore and the database file on the primary storage. You can still run your database in the instant database recovery state, and all those changes are also synchronized with the production storage. So once you switch over to back to production, those changes will be merged as well on the production storage. So stage 2 is to start restoring the database on your primary storage and keep on syncing the latest updates on your database to the primary storage. Once the restore finishes and once all the files are, just say, up to date with the sync, you can initiate the switchover process, right? So what switchover means, we just switch the database from running from the repository from the mount server to running back in production. So that one requires a bit of a downtime, as I already explained. But there are 3 options for the switchover. You can let Veeam run it automatically after the restore and after the sync. You can run it manually whenever you think you're ready to run it, because if you run this during production hours, you might not want to initiate the switchover right away. You might want to wait until you're out of production hours and only then initiate the switchover process, or you can schedule it to run. So it can run once again outside production hours based on when you schedule it to run. Okay, that's pretty much it with the with the instant database recovery. And this is this is the last state with the switchover process happening. Instant file share recovery. It only works for SMB protocol at the moment. There are plans to include other protocols as well. But the idea behind this instant file share recovery is exactly the same. We mount the share to a mount server at your choice. So you can select the server where we want one. It can be the Veeam repository, it can be the VBR server, it can be any other server. And then we present it to the client as a new mount point with access to all the files and all the folders from that file share. And this also happens in seconds. Okay, let me show you how instant database recovery works in our demo lab. So all you have to do is to create a backup job for that SQL and Oracle database. If you have that virtual machine or that physical server backed up and you have the backups on the repository, you can then initiate an instant database recovery with the help of our Veeam Explorers. So you'll have to load the Veeam Explorer for SQL database or for Oracle database, right? And from the Veeam Explorer, you're going to have an option to instantly recover that database. So right-click on it, restore application items, SQL, select the restore point. Let's say this one. Next, browse for content. Now Veeam Explorer loads, which gives you that granularity to restore individual databases and individual items from the database. And you can select the database and initiate the instant recovery of this database to the same server, so to the original location, to your production server, or you can even instant recover it to a different server. You can select the restore point. If you do transaction logs as well, backups with Veeam, you can be even more granular and select the specific transaction from where you want to restore that virtual machine. Okay, then select the service, provide the credentials, and the database will instantly recover on that server. And then once it's also restored to that production storage, you can switch over back to it. So it's still a restore, but you have access to the database fast because we can instantly recover it directly from the repository. And that's all you have to do. There's nothing special about it, but yeah, it's very, very efficient in the way it works. Okay, now going back to my presentation, I want to show you, well, I demonstrated the 4 key features of Veeam Backup Replication V11, but as I was saying at the beginning, we have more than 150 enhancements. So now I want to briefly walk you through some of them. Of course, not all of them, but some of them. First one is Veeam One. So we improved our Veeam One coverage. You can have an unified monitoring and reporting across on-prem, cloud, remote agents to ensure that all your data is protected, compliant, and ready for recovery. So right now, it's not just about virtual platforms, it's also physical servers or even cloud instances. Veeam Disaster Recovery Orchestrator, previously Veeam Availability Orchestrator, enables users to reliably ensure the continuity of their IT services. So you can create orchestration plans for your critical workloads, and you can have this entire process fully automated. And we support orchestration from storage snapshots from NetApp storages and IBM storages, as well as any other workload running on VMware. And you can once again fully automate that DR process. Veeam Service Provider Console. Now, Veeam Service Provider Console, for those of you who want to use our backup as a service and DR as a service services. It offers more control and more visibility over the environment. What backup as a service and DR as a service is? The idea behind it is that you can use our huge network of service providers, and of course, Complete IT can help you with that, to send your backups to or replicate your workloads to their data centers. If you do not have a backup target, if you do not have a DR site where you would like to, I don't know, create a CDP policy to or replicate to, you can use this network that that we have available with service providers to use their environment, their infrastructure to send your backups there or to replicate your workloads there. And they can even manage the entire backup platform for you. So you don't have to worry about it. They will just manage the back jobs. They will just perform the restores and schedule the jobs the way you want it to be. So yeah, it's basically a backup as a service solution that we can provide with the help of our service providers. And we improve this with every release. We keep on adding features to it. We keep on adding more visibility to our customers to allow them to view everything they protect and to allow them to restore more and more and those workloads. Okay, additional backup capabilities. Now we have a Veeam agent for macOS. We have agents for AIX, Linux, Windows, and Oracle Solaris. But starting with 2021, we have an agent for Mac OS. So you can protect your endpoints, you can protect your laptops with the Veeam agent for Mac OS. Also, we improved our engine for our integration with the Hadoop appliances. We changed the data file size, we increased it, and now you can write data to the Hadoop appliance 4 times faster. We offer 4 times better performance for writing data on the Hadoop appliance. Faster backup for NAS. If you have a file share running on Dell EMC, Lenovo, or NetApp, you can automatically backup from storage snapshots, and that will, of course, increase the performance through native change file tracking integration that we already had available for NAS backups. Also, VMware Cloud Director replication. So you can do replication for VMware Cloud Director right now, starting with V11, and instant recovery to Microsoft Hyper-V. Basically, starting with V11, any type of workload can be instantly recovered to Microsoft Hyper-V. So same technology for instant database recovery with power on the virtual machine or the physical server or even cloud workload directly from the backup file on top of a Hyper-V host as a virtual machine. Okay, 2 new products around cloud. We have, we have our second version of Veeam Backup for Azure, which of course has some improvements and a better integration with Veeam Backup Replication. So yeah, our goal is to offer one single platform for all your workloads, and Veeam Backup for Azure version 2 has a much better integration with Backup and Replication. You can perform restores, you can create backup copy jobs from the Veeam Backup and Replication console. And also just released Veeam Backup for Google Cloud version 1. So you can protect Google Cloud workloads without running any agents inside the guest OS. This is only for cloud instances running in Google Cloud. Okay, that was it with the latest update. Before we wrap, I want to share a couple more things with you. So these days, Veeam is not just a backup software. It can help you restore workloads from one platform to another, like VMware to Hyper-V, physical to virtual, physical to cloud. So yeah, this matrix is almost complete. Veeam in 2021 can help you have a smooth transition from on-prem to the cloud, for example, or for physical to virtual, as I've just said. So you can migrate your workloads the way you want with Veeam Backup and Replication. And also offer 2 packages. We have 2 packs available for those of you who not only need backups, but also need the monitoring solution or a DR orchestration product. The first one is the well-known Veeam Availability Suite, Veeam Backup Replication, and Veeam One, so the monitoring component. You can bundle them together and get Veeam Availability Suite, so you have monitoring, reporting, and also backups and replications. The second one is Veeam DR Pack. DR Pack is Veeam Backup Replication with Veeam Disaster Recovery Orchestrator that you can use to have that automated failover process, automated orchestration process for your mission critical workloads from your production site to the DR site. So yeah, as you can see, we are the market leader for data protection for a reason, and we keep on expanding our portfolio to accommodate basically any scenario. And it's not only about backups anymore. It's an entire ecosystem that will help you hopefully sleep better at night. And our partnership with Complete IT has started, I think, in 2009. And yeah, we're both here to help you protect your data the right way. So yeah, you can focus on your business. That was all from my side. Thank you very much for your attention. Now, I'm conscious of time, so back to you, Kevin.
Thank you for that, Andre. I think we'll probably start. You probably all want to go get a cup of tea and a coffee now, to be honest. I'd like to thank Andre, Eugenia, and Senya, who helped from Veeam, who organised this with us, and all those at Complete IT that enabled the webinar to take place. A big thank you to all of you for attending. We know your time is precious. I hope the webinar has been useful to you all. But if you would like to discuss anything you've seen today, please either speak to your account manager or give us a call on 01274 396 261, or if you email at info@cit-sys.co.uk. Once again, thank you for your time today, and I'll open it up for any questions if there are any.
No questions.
No questions.
Well, it means that I've explained everything very clear, right? Hopefully.
Yeah. If you have any questions and you'd rather email those in, then that's not a problem at all. But thank you again for your time, and I hope you all have a good day.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for your time as well.